What is the community that doesn't exist, that needs to exist, that would help your career, help your clients, help people that are doing something similar to you? You've got to go build that on the small scale as well. If you're the broker, there's a huge value that's created for both communities and for you. If you're 1 degree of separation from that broker, none of that value spills over, right? It doesn't affect your career just because you know the person connecting. You have to be the person connecting.
Top leaders, meaningful conversation, actionable advice, bulldoze complacency, ignite inspiration, create impact. Produced by Southwestern family of companies. This is the Action Catalyst.
David Burkus is here. His book's called Friend of a Friend. So David, welcome back to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Well, let's do this. So tell me, Friend of a Friend, it's based on the science of human behavior and not on rote networking advice. So what does that mean exactly?
This is not a new topic, right? We know this is important. We know we've heard the phrases, your network is your net worth, right? And all of those sort of phrases. And yet most of what we're consuming is what I would call networking advice, right? And it's someone's advice on here's how to give the perfect elevator pitch or how to introduce 2 people. And it's good stuff. I mean, some of it, how to win friends and influence people is a perennial, it's a classic, right? So it's good stuff, but it's one person's advice, right? And that one person can sometimes be different than you. That one person can have different experiences than you, et cetera. And a lot of people take that advice and then they go to the event or they go to that thing where they're trying to meet new people. They try and put that advice into practice. And then they feel weird and sleazy and inauthentic. And well, no wonder you feel inauthentic. You're trying to be someone else, by doing their thing. So I'm trying to take a little bit different track, which is for the last 50 or 60 years, scientists from a variety of fields, mathematics, but also behavioral science, behavioral economics, sociology, et cetera, have been studying how networks actually work. How if A is connected to B and B is connected to C, how are C and A's relationship and what's going on in sort of the broader network. And so the big idea is I think most people need to learn less of someone else's advice and need to learn more about the network that they're already a part of and get a better map on that and then respond accordingly. I mean, a network's not something you have, and networking is not necessarily something you do. You already exist inside of a network. There's one network, 7.4 billion people strong and counting, but then whatever industry you're trying to sell to or be a part of, whatever community that you're engaged in, that's already a network. And the better strategy is to figure out, where am I in this? Who am I already connected to? Who do I need to be connected to? How can I chart a path from me to them, et cetera? And when you start to do that, it looks a whole lot less like running around trying to just add people to your contacts on LinkedIn or on email addresses onto your phone, and looks a whole lot more like mapping the community that you're a part of so you can start providing value to that community and letting that value come back to you. And, a lot of us, when we think about growing a network, we immediately go to the sort of strangers approach, right? I'm going to go try and meet new people, whether that's at an event or whether that is cold calling, whatever it is, I'm trying to meet new people, as opposed to knowing that inside of the network that we're already a part of, there are people that we know, but we haven't talked to in a while. We call these in network science the weak or dormant ties. There's people that are warm referrals. They're 1 degree of separation out from us, and we can be introduced to them. In fact, probably the funniest study in the entire book is looking at, is there truth behind 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon? And so, what happens is people try and connect one actor to another actor through Kevin Bacon in 6 steps or less. And it's possible. It's also possible to do it without Kevin Bacon. In fact, there's actually nothing special about Kevin Bacon. He's a fluke of history. In terms of being connected, he's the 669th most connected person in Hollywood. But it's good news for all of us, right? What it suggests is that if you think about you may not be in Hollywood, but if you think about your industry or your geography as a network, you don't have to have this incredible super connectors network. You're already probably 1 or 2 degrees of separation out from everyone that you need to meet and get to know. It's just a matter of knowing what is my path to them, who could introduce me to them, et cetera. That's a much better strategy than thinking about okay, I need to just add as many new contacts to my app as possible. It's much more about going, okay, I know I need these types of people. How can I get better connected to them?
Yeah. Is there anything specific that we should be doing with that information? Or is it just more of it's about the mindset shift of going, just spend time nurturing what you have and work that, not building a new network?
So I would say that's the first part. The second is, as you're nurturing the connections that you already have, I coach a lot of people to get in the practice of asking the question, who do you know in blank, with blank being whatever industry, sector, segment that you want to get to know more of. Now, that's different than what most people will do if they find out. Usually they'll wait till they find out that they have a connection to that one person, that amazing person that's going to fill their quota for the quarter, or going to introduce them to the Hollywood executive that's going to get them in a feature film, right? When we think about that, maybe we don't even know, we LinkedIn stalk, and then it tells us we have this connection. Then we go to that one person and we beg for an introduction. A better approach is to sort of systematically be asking contacts we already have, hey, who do you know in blank, whatever that segment is, and let them come up with not just one person, but a list of names. Usually that list of names is going to be people they would be comfortable introducing you to. And when you're doing that to 5 or 6 different people and the same 2 or 3 names come up, that's a strong signal in terms of the network that that's the right person for you. And that person is also probably different than the one that you thought you needed to get connected to. I mean, if there's 7.4 billion people in the world, the likelihood that the person you think is going to transform your business is also the person that really is going to transform your business is pretty small. So it's better to have a very open edge mentality of, I'm trying to explore the fringes of the network in its totality, and then we can figure out who are the right people to get connected to.
Yeah. You talk about networking events. There is a term that you introduce called multiplexity.
Yeah. And the way to think about network meetings is sort of like adding fuel to the fire of doing this warm lead thing anyway, right? If you go, you're going to accelerate that. But what a lot of people do is they run around and they ask, in my opinion, the wrong question. They ask, so what do you do? Which sounds like it's a great question because it sounds like it cuts out of the small talk and gets to the heart of it. But there's I call it a $12 word, multiplexity. And what it is in network science is it's essentially a realization that even though A might know B, there are multiple different ways in which people can know each other. So when we have just one thing in common or one reason to connect, we call that a uniplex tie, right? So when it's just work related, that's a uniplex tie. If we work together, but our kids go to the same elementary school and we also, see each other at the gym, that's a multiplex tie. There's multiple different contexts in which we see each other. And the research strongly suggests that you will build a better and deeper relationship with someone faster if you're building multiplex ties. So we go back to this question, so what do you do? The problem with that is you're at a networking event, especially, you're in a situation where the context is sending a strong signal that we're supposed to talk about work. And then when you ask, so what do? You send a strong signal that that's what I'm interested in talking to. The context is going to shift your conversation to work eventually anyway. So I advise people lead with a little bit different question, right? Something that's open-ended, something that they can explore. So this could be anything that feels natural, but explores some other dimension. So what excites you right now? Where did you grow up? I actually like to ask, who's your favorite superhero? Just because you can learn a lot about somebody when talking about superhero. But anything that explores them from another aspect. I mean, humans are multifaceted creatures, right? And the way that you build a deeper relationship stronger with them is to be multifascinated by the different elements of them. You get to know them better on multiple different levels. And you do that, I think, by starting with a little bit different question. It might sound like small talk, it might sound trivial, but you're exploring other possible avenues and things you might have in common. And when you come back to work, you will have a deeper relationship, a stronger level of trust, etc., than if you just focused in on work-related things. The key is you also have to be legitimately interested in the other person, right? Which is part of being a decent human being. Yeah. But if you are, then there's no reason to stay within those guide rails that we think we're supposed to do of the, so what do you do? Let's exchange business cards. Let's only think about each other in a work context. The other thing is that as you go throughout the longitude of your whole career, you might actually find that your personal friends, the people that are connected to you for sort of non-work reasons, end up becoming work relationships. In Friend of a Friend, we tell the story of Whitney Johnson, who's a brilliant thinker, a good friend of mine. Whitney's biggest sort of thing before she went as a writer, speaker, thinker was she worked for an investment firm called Rose Park Advisors, started by Clayton Christensen, the brilliant mind behind disruptive innovation. How did she get that job? Well, she was working in Wall Street, but she got that job because she was serving on a committee at church with Clay Christensen. He got to see how she worked in that capacity. And that was the capacity that made him say, like, you know what? I want you to lead my firm when I start it, right? Which is not, you wouldn't think that at all. Like, no one's job advice is go start thinking about the people that you know from church. But the truth is people are multidimensional and you have no idea how those connections are going to pay off in the future. So be generally interested in all of the facets of someone. And it will not only pay off because you get to know them better and are a better human being, it'll probably pay off in the long run, even in your career as well. if A knows B and B knows C, C is more likely to know A. In reality, too much transitivity is actually a bad thing. Like when you have too many of the same close connections, then you all kind of think alike, act alike. Everybody knows each other. So that even the introductions and referrals you're going to get are very similar to you. So transitivity can actually be a bad thing. We need some of it because we have to have close connections, but we also have to monitor how much time am I spending with the same few people versus with the people that are further out in my network that I'm sort of rewarming those ties.
Uh-huh. There's a concept again here in the book that you talk about structural holes.
Yeah, so this is probably one of my favorite insights from the whole world of network science. Structural holes refers to networks. When we just talked about transitivity, that leads to sort of clustering. People tend to cluster off, right? So they cluster off by industry, they cluster off by ideology, like political ideology. They cluster for a bunch of different reasons. And what that creates over time is it's almost like planets and space, right? There's Earth and there's Mars, and in between there's nothing. Well, sometimes there's the moon, but you know what I mean? Like it creates a gap, an empty space in the network. And it turns out that the people who bridge that gap, who connect two communities to each other, who become sort of an information flow between them, those are the people that end up creating the most value for both of those communities and the people who generate sort of the most value for themselves because they're seen as that connector. And this is, if you think about this on a rudimentary level, we know this in the sense that like if you work in sales, for example, you have the group of salespeople, that's a cluster, you sort of community of practice. Then you have the target market that you're working in, that's another. But do we ever think about, okay, what are the other clusters that are kind of connected to that target market, right? And some industries do this really instinctively. Real estate agents, for example, are great at knowing that they also need to be connected to the title company and the mortgage officer people. But the same thing works for sort of almost all of it. I cut my teeth my first job out of school. I was a pharmaceutical sales rep, right? And one of the advantages that I had was that there's drug reps and then there's doctors. But there's also nurses, there's medical device reps. There's a couple different clusters that if I can start to bridge a lot of those structural holes, I can create a lot more value for everybody. And that spills over into my own career as well. It's social capital, right? This is a term that describes the value when a community is well interconnected versus geographically dispersed, but also it's the value that the person doing that spills over into that person doing the connecting, right? And, I think the big takeaway number one is that how can you be that person, right? What is the community that doesn't exist, that needs to exist, that would help your career, help your clients, help people that are doing something similar to you? You've got to go build that on the small scale as well. Because one of the things that we know from the research on structural holes and on social capital is that there is not a spillover effect, right? If you're the broker, there's a huge value that's created for both communities and for you. If you're 1 degree of separation from that broker, none of that value spills over, right? It doesn't affect your career just because you know the person connecting. You have to be the person connecting. Where can I build that little bit of a community? Where can I connect to communities? Where can I be a broker even in the small scale? Because it's not enough to just rely on other people to always be giving you those introductions, but you have to be that person that's actually connecting. And everybody can. This is not an introvert versus extrovert thing. This is not a how long have I been in my career thing. Everybody can begin to pay attention to the network that exists and start to connect groups and communities and even just individual people closer together that creates value for that network, and it will spill over to you in turn. What I love about the term social capital too is it works just like any other capital. It compounds over time. So you've got to make the little investments in it. You can't just start withdrawing from it right away. Like I can't buy a mutual fund and then go, I'd like to withdraw $100,000 from it. It doesn't work that way. I have to actually have invested that amount of money first before I can do it. And networks, they work the exact same way. And really, I mean, if I'm going to be a little bit braggadocious, this is the big theory of the book too, which is let's try and connect these two communities, the people that study networks and the people who need to know how to network better. It's not just advice. It's, hey, I'm just trying to be that connector to, well, here's the evidence-based community that backs up all of the things that you're advising.
Yeah. How do you know, like you said, Kevin Bacon is the 669th connected person in Hollywood. What's the process that y'all are doing to come up with something like that?
Okay, so in that specific situation, the way that the researchers did it was they basically took the data from Internet Movie Database and basically were saying if you acted together in a movie, that's a connection, right? And so they can explore. It's a very sort of big data thing, right? Actually, Facebook, by the way, does the exact same thing. I know we're in a bit of a data privacy in Facebook, but they actually almost every year release a study that shows based on the number of connections you have, like how many bridges does it take to connect everyone in the Facebook community? And while it might be 6 degrees of separation for the 7.4 billion people who are out there. For the 2 billion that have a Facebook account, it's actually only 4 introductions. So it sort of shrinks it. So you look at it, when we're saying Kevin Bacon is 669, it's because of the sheer sort of number of connections that he has. He ranks 669. There was I think the most connected one, if I remember right, was just sort of an actor that had been in a bunch of different genres, but not as a feature actor. So he's just sort of rotating around, but you're building all of those relationships. The thing that's most fascinating to me is that you don't necessarily have to be that number one person. Even someone with as terrible a network as Kevin Bacon can create all the value in the world from connecting multiple different people and have that affect his career too. I mean, the guy's actually been in a Visa ad about 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, right? All because of this thing that just happened, even though he wasn't the most connected. So everyone has this potential. You don't have to be that super extroverted guy who knows how to work the room type person. We all have that potential. We just need to pay a little bit more attention to the network that's around us and then respond accordingly. Actually, we dive into some of the research on really most of these online tools, whether it be LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter or what have you. Most of them are only really effective to the extent that they're a supplement for your existing offline network, not a replacement for, right? So it's great to do it. It's great to jump into LinkedIn groups or Facebook groups and interact. You also have to sort of be finding ways to make that connection a bit more personal before it gets really valuable. We all know those people that spend a little bit too much time on it and not enough time, like doing whatever the hard work of getting in front of people is. We tell ourselves that, oh, I'm building my network. I'm doing this thing. Like, no, you're not. You're just posting articles on LinkedIn and calling that network. And like, that's a great supplement to help you with connections, but it is not a replacement for the old school ways. And it's interesting in the age of technology and all of this data that's what we find.
If somebody's out there listening right now, is in the spirit of the Action Catalyst podcast, what is the first thing that you would have them take action on in terms of implementing everything that they are learning here and what we're talking about?
The first thing I would probably want them to do is in line with a little bit of what we talked about with the research on weak ties, which is I want you to think of 5 people that you haven't talked to in 6 months to a year. And I want you to do the work of reaching back out to them, engaging them in a conversation. You have my permission to wait till you find a relevant reason to do it, but you don't have my permission to ignore making the list. Get that list made, put it in front of you. And when you start to think about them or you read an article that they'd be interested in, or you see them post something online about what they're up to, that's your reason, that's your ramp to go back and reconnect with them and focus in on that first, because it's more comfortable, but it's hugely beneficial to not just you, the overall network.
All right, my friends, David Burkus is who you're listening to, davidburkus.com, and we wish you all the best.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me and for sharing me with your community. I really appreciate it.
If you enjoy this podcast, please make sure to subscribe. And to stay updated on everything that the Action Catalyst is up to, make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Action Catalyst Podcast and on Twitter at Catalyst_Action. And thanks for listening.